So I have a question. Why the hell did Disney, a company that so clearly and confidently flaunts their desire to excel at customer service, partner with EA, a company that quite literally hates their consumers and thinks they're big dumb fuckos? For years, this perplexed me, because it's not like Disney is really benefiting much from this deal. I mean, sure, Battlefront 1 and 2 have ended up being monetary successes in the long run. And The Fallen Order put EA's retarded no one likes single player games notion to bed with a resounding thunderclap of support, even though the game is still riddled with bugs. But even though these games were profitable in the long run, it doesn't really make sense for Disney because they didn't just give EA the ability to make Star Wars games and share the license. They gave EA the exclusive and indefinite rights to make as many Star Wars games as they damn well please. To me, from a business standpoint, this doesn't really make any sense. I mean, just look at what they're doing with their Marvel licenses. They gave the rights to make Marvel games to several different developers, which ended up proving to be incredibly wise as Nintendo produced a smash hit Marvel game in Ultimate Alliance 3, all while Square Enix is working on another highly anticipated title in their upcoming Avengers game. And of course, who could forget the recent success of Spider-Man, which proved to be the most profitable superhero video game of all time. And yes, Disney does still own the rights to Spider-Man's video games. They just so happen to give Sony the task of making this one. Anyway, they reaped the benefits of their license and pulled in tons of profit as a result, while also leaving fans moderately satisfied. I guess it turns out that having several AAA studios developing games for you at the same time is better than just having one do it. So thus begs the question, Disney, why the fuck did you give Star Wars to one of the most hated and incompetent companies in the world? It's not like this is good for their bottom line because they could have just had EA work on these games with a shared license like they did with their Marvel games, netting in more profit from selling more games and giving consumers more content to devour. EA has only made 3 Star Wars games, and they've had this contract for almost a decade now. Just for scale, that's 3 games produced, and at least 3, maybe more, that EA has scrapped in pre-production. I mean, think of the stories that could be told now that Star Wars is a blank canvas again. And yet, EA has only explored 1 major plotline and 3 hours of a single-player story that just barely relates to Rogue One. The math here is very simple: fewer games equals fewer profit, and EA doesn't seem to have any meaningful desire to produce or tell stories in a franchise that has always been about its engaging stories. This deal wouldn't have even made sense for Disney if they just wanted a AAA developer to take the headache of producing and marketing these games away from them, because come on bitch, this is EA we're talking about here, the persistent malignant tumor of the gaming industry. All they do is cause headaches. And this tendency has shown itself to be true time and time again, as every EA Star Wars title is fraught with controversy. I mean, it's gotten to the point where Fallen Order, a game that obviously needs polish, has been heralded as a return to proper form. So why did Disney do this? Well, to me, I think it has to do with one sacred IP. One IP that even EA seems hesitant to touch in any meaningful way, shape, or form. The Knights of the Old Republic. See, it's my firm belief that Disney partnered themselves up with EA, giving them the sole and indefinite rights to making Star Wars games simply because they wanted to have access to KOTOR, its characters, and its stories, so that they could ultimately adapt them into movie form. Now look, I understand this contract isn't exclusive both ways, at least to my knowledge it's not, but now that EA has dug its vampiric fangs into the virgin neck of Star Wars, and tasted the sweet, sweet nectar of just how easy it is to sell half-assed games chock full of $100 DLC and microtransactions to fans who will always be okay with settling for less, you can bet they aren't gonna be happy parting with said cash cow. So Disney is employing a bit of a you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours type of business. I'll let you make half-assed games resulting in absurd profits, then you let me take KOTOR lore and turn it into half-assed movies and comics for more absurd profits. Then you can take those half-assed movies and comics and turn them into even more half-assed games and DLC for, you guessed it, more absurd profits. It's a win-win cycle for 2 companies where only the consumer really loses, but for 2 companies that seem to be set on milking Star Wars teat for teat until this cow literally shrivels into dust a la Spider-Man style, it just works. I mean, hell, this is arguably what Disney did with Sony regarding Spider-Man. You let me add Spidey to the MCU and we'll give you the ability to make a Marvel game, which ultimately ended up being Spider-Man when Sony told Insomniac to pick from the bunch. Anyways, since KOTOR itself is still more or less sacred, ignoring SWOTOR, it would be very easy to see Disney still wanting to crack that egg open and fry it over some slimy bacon grease, and thus I'm predicting this will be the next era Disney really puts a focus on. After all, the success of The Mandalorian only really pushes this theory further towards validity, cause come on, you can't talk about KOTOR without talking about the Mandalorians. And after researching this topic a bit more, it turns out rumor has it these films are already in the works. And thus it becomes a little bit easier to understand why Disney seemingly shot themselves in the foot with this exclusive and indefinite contract. They want all of Star Wars, and they know that Revan is a fan-favorite character. So, much like a power-obsessed Palpatine, they'll stop at nothing to get it, even if it ultimately means they end up with their face all fucked up. Honestly, I'm conflicted. This could be really good. I mean, you gotta remember, the Marvel Cinematic Universe suffered through a lot of Phase 1. But the directors, writers, cast, and crew really honed their storytelling capabilities, managing to pull up on a dying franchise and see it soar to multi-billion-dollar record-setting profitability. Maybe Disney's Star Wars team could do something similar. I mean, all they need to do is not hire Rian Johnson for literally anything else ever again, and they're already halfway there. Only time will tell, but I'm telling you right now to beware and brace yourself, because nothing is sacred and Disney is going for Revan next. Maybe we could be pleasantly surprised with a Keanu Revan and a trilogy that includes the best of the Mandalorian, Jedi, and Sith Wars. Or maybe they'll rewrite literally everything and make Revan a porg-sexual Gungan played by Kevin Hart or The Rock. I might not pay for it, but I'd still watch it. Anyway, I've said my piece. What do you think about this theory, and would you be excited to see Revan on the big screen? Let me know down below, and as always, this has been So Good, signing off by reminding you to go out there and keep on loving good stuff.